So I was not your typical yoga type. When I was a kid, I was definitely uncoordinated and I had zero grace, no flexibility, no coordination. All the other little girls in dance class would be, able to follow along really easily, and I was really discombobulated, and whenever the teacher would say step to the left, I'd be stepping to the right. My timing was terrible, and I tried really hard, but no teacher was ever really patient. They'd all tell my parents the same thing. Gina's just really artsy. Maybe you should just get her into an art camp. And that was okay. We tried gymnastics, that didn't work either. We tried different sports, and I just never liked the competition. I was never a kid for forcing myself into those things. So I pretty much told myself the story through my teen years and then high school and then college that I was just not athletic. It's just, that's okay. Not everybody's born that way. And, I was just really into art, and I loved to eat, and I loved to drink, and I loved to smoke, and I loved to do all of those other wonderful non-athletic things. So I basically went my entire life just kind of floating around and telling myself that I wasn't good at physical things, and that was fine. And it really wasn't until my early 20s that I was working at a big corporate job, and I was working as a graphic designer for a big publishing house, and I loved my work, and it was great being in Manhattan and the energy of the city, and all of it was great, but there was definitely something in me that I knew I would try to get connected to some form of working out. My husband and I, would sign up for a gym, and we'd go maybe for 2 or 3 weeks in a row, and after showing up a couple of nights a week to work out with these annoying little women everywhere in their little outfits that they were all with perfect makeup, and nobody was sweating, and I was the only one with a muffin top, and I was losing my breath on the treadmill so easily, and I think I tried to take like 2 aerobics classes, and it was terrible because I just had zero coordination, like I should have remembered from when I was a kid. And everybody was stepping in time, and I was just always out of time, and it just never felt right. So I just basically, did my thing. And then when I was working for this corporate job, our HR department had actually hired a yoga studio and a teacher to come in and offer classes once a week. And, growing up on Long Island, maybe coming from a little bit of an Irish Catholic background, the Italian flair, I had a little bit of had some anger issues too. Maybe I was a little rough around the edges. Maybe people, sensed something. So maybe by like the 6th or 7th person at work suggesting that I take a yoga class, when I would stop and, kind of cock my head to the side and say, "Why? What makes you think I need yoga?" I said, "Well, maybe, to deal with your stress, maybe your anger a little bit." So I finally said, well, if I'm going to try something, at least it's here. What's the worst that could happen? Because honestly, I was never stepping foot in a yoga studio because there was absolutely no way that I was going to be dragging my overweight, non-vegetarian, smoking, drinking ass into a regular yoga class. I just knew that all the people there were skinny, all the people there were vegetarians, all the people there were very good at what they were doing. They were all ex-dancers and gymnasts, and they were all naturally very graceful and fluid and, yoga types. I was definitely not a yoga type. So when they showed up at my job, and after so many people suggested it, I just figured, all right, why not give it a try? My first class was a shit show, and I can say that, for myself. I don't think that my teacher saw it as that, and I don't think that anybody else saw it as that, especially now looking back after all these years. I know that people are not really paying attention to what's going on other people's mats. They're pretty much concerned with the fact that they think they're the worst. Like pretty much every person who comes into a yoga class, and when you're especially in the beginning, thinks that they're the worst. And as women goes, we are all concerned that we are being looked at from behind in really unflattering positions, and that it's going to be painfully obvious that we are the worst ones there. So with all of that going on, I tried my first class, and it was awful in the sense that I don't think I realized you could sweat so much doing yoga. I was not naturally graceful. I was screwing up left and right. The teacher would say, move this way. I was moving the other way. But she didn't seem to mind, and nobody else seemed to care either. And I kept apologizing and getting mad at myself and pushing myself around. And she just kept coming over with this really graceful, calm look on her face, like, just maybe, it's okay. Just try a little less. You don't have to worry. Take a child's pose. Go down, take a breath. Don't worry. And in the meantime, I'm looking at this lady like, are you kidding me right now? How could you be so calm? Because I am not calm. This is terrible. And I was, looking around and seeing how everybody else, no one was sweating. I was the only one sweating. No one was having trouble the way that I was having trouble. They were all perfectly aligned, or at least that's what I was seeing. And especially the people next to me when they just, oh, now it's time for our inversion practice, if anybody would like to go into their headstand. And this guy next to me just floats up into this perfect headstand, and I'm thinking to myself, why am I here? There's no way that I'm ever going to be able to do this. So I left at the end of it, and of course, that first day, the first time Shavasana, now a little bit of my background, I'm a little bit of an A-type, if you, couldn't tell. I got a little bit of fire going on. And when I went to lay down at the end, it's the middle of the day, it's a dark room, all these people are just laying down, and the teacher's talking about clearing your mind and just allowing your body to relax into the floor. And there was no relaxing happening for me. There was no way I was closing my eyes. I was just looking around the room, kind of tweaking out, wondering why everybody was laying there so peaceful and quiet and relaxed looking when there's stuff that I have to do. I was thinking about what I was going to have for lunch. I was thinking about what was going to happen when I got back to work. I started just kind of cycling through my to-do list, and it wasn't very relaxing. So at the end of that class, that was the last Shavasana that I actually did for about a month. And I just knew that the classes I really wanted, I had this burning desire to get better. I knew after that first class that while I really sucked at it and I wound up being sore for like 3 days afterwards, I knew that it was the kind of sore that I could work with, and that the teacher kept saying, if you're just patient and show up, things get better, your body will open, you'll get stronger. So I started coming back once a week. That was my practice in this conference room, and she let me leave before Shavasana for about a month. And then the last time, right before this time, she said, Gina, why do you leave before Shavasana? Like, that's really like the best part. Why don't you, it seems like that's what you probably need the most. And I just said, because, it looks like everybody else is just relaxing and taking a nap, and I got some shit to do. I got piles of stuff on my desk that are waiting for me. And she just said with that knowing smile, that yoga teacher smile, that face that they make when they, young Jedi, you have much to learn. And she just looked at me very calmly and said, just trust me. Let your mind just relax a little bit. Just let yourself sink into the floor. When you see the thoughts come by, just say, hey, thoughts, and then just watch them go by, and just let them, name it, and then come back to just watching what your breath is doing and watch it rise and fall. And you can label your thoughts, but just kind of get this detached sense of witness with it and let them float by. And I did. And I wound up passing out. And I slept for like 5 minutes really hard. I mean, almost to the point where there was like a little drool coming out on the side of my mouth by the end of it. And when she ohmed us out, I kind of startled myself awake, and I felt just so deeply rested. And I realized, that's it. I am hooked. And that started the whole beginning.